And we're live with another episode of BS Busters, and well, we're talking about all types of things. So,
Since the last month of the year, we've got something in mind for all the people that listen to time.
well, I decided to do something different for December. Normally, we talk about the games of the year and all that stuff, and we'll get to the game of the year, but I think we'll do the game of the year the first. For New Year's, we'll do the game of the year. New Year's Eve, New Year's, that'll be the game of the year cast. Because then it'll officially be 2020 and we have to talk about game of the year. But we'll go a step further and do games of the decade, which is going to be even bigger because, it's the end of the 2010s, the beginning of the 2020s. So, with that being said, this month is all going to be about
I'll start us
RPGs.
off.
But before we go further into what I'm laying out for the thing, I guess you should first introduce yourself, Joel. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
And I was trying to keep up with you a little. This is Joe Lemon, so welcome you to BF Sisters Midweek Podcast. And if anything, we're about pen, paper, digital, and some mixed games.
That's right. But Pinky?
And this is Pinky Dawn from Video Game Editorials. And I got nothing else to say other than say that I'm feeling really darn full right now from what I ate.
All right. Okay. And of course, this is Mr. Red Fox, and today, today we're covering. I decided to do something different for December, so it's D&D December, but we're talking just RPGs in general because I think it would be a little too cakey and dense to go with JRPGs. I mean, to go with D&D every single day, every single podcast throughout the. I mean, that would be 8 podcasts throughout throughout December, and that's just a little too much. That's a little too much. So instead, I'm going with instead we're doing a different theme every week. So this week it's the best JRPGs. Next week it'll be best Western RPGs. The week after that it'll be the best hybrid RPGs. So kind of like a mixture between Western and Eastern JRPGs. And the last week it'll be D&D. So that being said, let's get into it. So what are your guys' best, i.e. favorite, top 5 JRPGs? Who wants to go first? Who wants to dive into that? And when I say best, it doesn't have to be like best of all time. Your personal best. So you don't have to always go with.
It's my personal list.
Yeah. What your top 5?
I was gonna say this is from a personal list I made, but I do got a list set.
Okay, go for it.
So, coming at number 5. Well, number 5. So my normal number is the Grandia series. Well, basically Grandia, and I'm lumping them together because, well, it's one of them, but I represent the series as a whole.
Okay, so that last Grandia game, we're just gonna ignore that happened.
Hey, if anything, I acknowledge that there's more than one Grandia game, but I'm not gonna ignore. I am gonna ignore the ones that I haven't played or hasn't been the one that stood out to me the most.
Well, there's Grandia 1, which is good. Grandia 2, which is like just it takes everything that Grandia 1 did and ups it. Then there's Grandia Extreme, which was basically a dungeon crawler. It was built around battles. The story was kind of minimal. And then there was Grandia 3, which, oh boy, that game was not that good. But I mean,
Yeah.
you got. I mean, like 3 out of 4 ain't bad. That's a 75%.
Yeah. Though, if anything, 2 represents my Grandia series entry.
Yeah, Grandia 2 is
So,
pretty good.
you're probably going to think it's a little low. Final Fantasy series, and the represents 6, 10, and Tactics.
No, I can't really fault you on the Final Fantasy being low. If Final Fantasy hadn't had the,
Grand,
well,
Grand,
if it hadn't had, 13, 13.2, 13.3, 15, if it hadn't had like 4 games that have just been shit in the mainline series, back to back to back to back to back, you know, like if Legend of Zelda had an installment where you had like 4 games through multiple console generations be shit, or Super Mario or Kirby, you probably be like, yeah, that series is taking a hit on my list of best series. So I can't fault you on that one.
you can't blame me there.
Yeah, no one's gonna be like, how dare you score that lower? It's like, well, you can't score it high, especially not when you've had like 4 games. And I don't mean like a hit here, a miss here, a hit here. I mean like major fucking brokenness.
Yeah. Though, if anything, into a conundrum, number 3 and 2 are from the same company, but species in a sense.
Okay.
3 would be the Paper Mario series, 2000 year during the original, and 2 is the Mario and Luigi series, representing Side Story, Paper Jam, and Superstar Saga.
Well,
So I was going to say
you're technically right, but
both of
also
them. I was going to say, if anything, I could make them both and put them in the A2 section, meaning that they're both taking second place.
well, you're technically right, but you're also technically wrong because the thing is that while Nintendo owns both of those IPs, the Mario and Luigi series is made by Alpha Dream, which I think has gone bankrupt, which is kind of sad. Um,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and Alpha Dreams isn't a first party studio. It's not. It's a third party studio, but they like made games exclusively for Nintendo. Whereas you're right, the Paper Mario series by and large was made by uh, Intelligent Systems. So yeah, yeah, it's been kind of a roller coaster ride with that series after the first 2 games, but
Yeah.
I would say overall, it's like kind of the weaker of the 2 series at this point because Mario and Luigi has pretty much stayed. Except, I mean, they kind of fucked up with Partners in Time because that game just made a lot of mistakes. But then they fixed it with the second one and third one. So
Yeah. And that's the reason why I was thinking of putting the Mario series with both Mario and Luigi together as the alternate two on the list that I have.
all right,
And number 1, well, probably no surprise or surprise. Boo. Chrono Trigger.
everyone always goes with Chrono Trigger. All right, Pinky.
Okay, let's see. Here are my top 5 Jrpg lists in no particular order. There's Thousand Year Old Door, Bowser's Inside Story, Sun and Moon, Three Houses, and Kingdom Hearts 2.
You realize like 2 of those games aren't RPGs, right?
I would debate to you that they're still technically RPGs, just that they're
Well,
just
I
different
mean,
subgenres.
it's your list, so go ahead. Okay, well, can you expand upon that? Why Thousand Year Door, Sun and Moon, Kingdom Hearts 2? Um, like, can you elaborate on your list a little bit instead of just listing them?
Well, let's see. Thousand Year Door is basically basically a more refined version of the original Paper Mario game. So as a post, as well as a post game, so you don't have to so your save file doesn't constantly beat before the final boss.
Okay.
And Kingdom Hearts 2 is also oh, wait, actually, I should go with Birth by Sleep instead because that one has my favorite game combat mechanics.
You mean the card battle thing?
No, that's Chain of Memories. Birth by Sleep is when they
I think it's when you have more than one character to work with, right?
and also the command meter is then written, and also a different command list where all the actions and magic are by pressing the triangle button, and then they have a cooldown meter.
All right. I'll take your word for it. I didn't play that one. I played the originals and then I played Chain of Memories, and I was like, yeah, I'm not feeling it. I'm like Naruto. Don't believe it. uh, all right. Is that your full list, or are there some games left?
Oh yeah, I should mention Xenoblade Chronicles 2 as an honorable mention.
All right. Even though that's more of in the hybrid category, because it's more like a Western RPG than it is a traditional JRPG. No, sorry, I'm thinking Xenoblade Chronicles X. Never mind, sorry.
And that's pretty much my list.
All right. Okay then, I guess it's my turn. Since everyone's gone with stuff that I kind of liked, that I would have put on my list, I'm gonna go with my more obscure references. But these are all good games, and if you get a chance to play them anyway. My number 5 is Lufia 2 for the SNES, not Lufia 2, the shitty remake made by Square Enix. The original Lufia 2.
Yeah, that's an interesting one that I heard of.
Yeah, Lufia 2 is a pretty good game. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. As a matter of fact, the entire Lufia series has been pretty solid, except when Square Enix bought the series and made that shitty action RPG remake of Lufia 2. I'm like, you clearly don't understand what Lufia is about. Like Lufia, the whole point behind Lufia was that it had a standardized combat system, but it combined the dungeon mechanics and finding items that you could use in other dungeons in order to unlock new areas like bombs and hook shots and arrows and fire arrows and boomerangs and stuff like that in order to solve puzzles in said dungeons like The Legend of Zelda. Like that basically was the big mechanic. And then you added the whole the ancient dungeon, which was like this dungeon that reset itself every time you went inside. And you started at level 1, and as you fought your way down in the dungeon, you would unlock chests. Some would be trapped, some would have items, some would have stat boosts. So once you got to the bottom of the ancient dungeon, you could basically you'd fight a boss, which in Lufia was the Egg Dragon, which apparently was like an insanely tough boss. But if you beat it, it would grant you a wish, which would in some games would give you like a really powerful weapon or a special item or a stat boost or let you learn special magic that otherwise you couldn't have access to, that type of thing. And the game was really good. I mean, the entire franchise has been really good. You've got the first Lufia, which was good. Lufia 2, which is actually a prequel to the first game. Lufia 3, which was on the Game Boy Color, also really good. Lufia and the Ruins of Lore, which takes place after Lufia 2. Kind of weird. It takes place after Lufia 2. And I mean, like I said, 4 games, all of which are solid, are good, except for the Lufia game made by Square Enix because it's Square Enix and they don't know how to make good RPGs anymore. So, yeah. Like if you put a gun to their head and said, "Make a good RPG," they just get shot in the head because they couldn't do it. Even if they were under pressure, they could not make a good RPG to save their lives. So that being said, my number 4 game is series, I should say. My number 4 JRPG, best JRPG series is Persona. Not Shin Megami Tensei, Persona. The reason I say Persona is because by and large, Persona is easier to get into than Shin Megami Tensei, the mainline series it's a spin-off of.
Though, if anything, it's probably because, if anything, I see how much G compared to the other, and I'm basically looking at it from the outside in.
Well, I mean,
Though, although the Persona series tends to dive into more questionable subjects matter in regards to the subplots.
I mean, I would say Shin Megami Tensei is the more hardcore, deals with more taboo subject matter than Persona. Like Persona, like basically, even though the Persona games have been rated M, and then after a certain point they were re-rated as T once they were ported over to certain consoles. Persona has always been like more like I would consider it to be more of like the PG-13 version of Shin Megami Tensei. If Shin Megami Tensei is rated R, Persona is rated T for teen. Like when I say teenager, I don't mean like and when I say PG-13, I mean like the 80s PG-13 where it was like, this is almost R, it just doesn't have sex in it. Like hardcore sex in it and there's no boobies. Like that's basically, it's like Temple of Doom PG-13 or Gremlins PG-13 where it's like, yeah, this could easily be a rated R movie. You know? This could easily be a rated R movie. Just add a little more blood, maybe some breasts popping out, and boom, it's rated R. Yeah, personally, like I said, I love me some. I like Persona just because it's easier to get into. Like for people who aren't really into JRPGs, Persona is easier to get into. By and large, especially the later Personas like 4 and 5. I would not recommend 3 or 1 or 2, but 4 or 5 are really easy to get into. Especially 4. 4 is really easy to get into, and it's fun, and it has interesting characters and a great story, and it's just a good game. Overall, it's a good game. Next.
And a nice soundtrack.
4, I mean, the soundtrack in all of them has been pretty good. Like 3 had this level music when you went out on your excursions to stop the monsters and everything, and there was like this one level that you went on that had this really awesome like jazz funk rock fusion, and like I had the music CD for the special edition of that game because Atlas always did limited runs for their Persona games the first run, and like every edition was a special edition and it came with a music CD and all that stuff, but I can't find it. But anyway, yeah, Persona, great series to get into. Number 2, my number 2 JRPG is franchise, if you will, is I'm gonna go with let's see, this is a tough one. I'm gonna go with I'm going with part of a series. I'm going with the Atelier series, but not the modern Atelier series where it's turned into like little magical girl simulator. Like when I say the Atelier series, I mean like the PS2 era series where like you'd have a male and female protagonist, and like there were 2 games that was like Harry Potter, except it was done in that Atelier style. It was called Monokamiya. Like for some reason, I really liked that series during the PS2 era. It's a shame that it's turned into a magical girl simulator. Because I mean, I don't know about you, but I have no want nor desire to perv against like way too young kids. that being said, I just like the series. I like the franchise. Um, and it was good until they turned it into a little magical girl simulator. Uh, like I don't know why they did that, but but yeah, I'm going with that because it's a good balance. Like it's like Lufia is more traditional. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like Persona is
Kind of
more
like how
like
I put, kind of like how I put a series together because of it, as right.
well, yeah. I mean, I was trying to pick games that let people get into different types of JRPGs. So yeah, the Atelier series is for those people who want to scratch that. Okay, um, like I want to do something a little bit different, but not too different. So
Yeah, I get what you. If anything, I did mostly see the art that were JRPG to me.
yeah, yeah, and my number one is pretty easy, pretty easy to get into. My number one is not going to be. It's not what you guys are going to think. My number one JRPG franchise. You might have guessed it because I talk about it all the time. Dragon Quest. There you go. Um, the
Yeah,
reason
I was.
the reason I go
Yeah,
with
I can
Dragon
get where you're
Quest
coming from there
and Final
because
Fantasy isn't on this
it has a
list at
long
all.
history and it's doing what Final Fantasy isn't doing, right?
Well, the reason I picked Dragon Quest as my number one over Final Fantasy is because Final Fantasy has had a precipitous drop in quality, and it would be like me putting them on my list would be like going to a restaurant that when it had a different head chef and different ownership, they had great food, and then the head chef left and the ownership sold the business to someone else, but they kept the name, but the new people running the kitchen, like the food isn't like
Oh
50% what it
yeah.
used to be. So it's like I
If
can't. I
anything,
mean, it used to be good, but it's not good now.
and you wonder why I put it number 4 on my list.
It didn't even make it on my list. Like I wouldn't even put Final Fantasy as it is right now into my top 10. even my top 20, it probably wouldn't make it. Just because it's been shit consistently through multiple console gens. Final Fantasy, like the last good Final Fantasy we got was Final Fantasy 12. And here's the kicker: Final Fantasy 12 technically isn't even really a Final Fantasy game. It's a Final Fantasy Tactics RPG, and Final Fantasy Tactics is a distinctly different genre and property compared to traditional Final Fantasy. Even though there's certain things that are the same. Like the magic system is kind
Mm-hmm.
of similar. Like you have white mages, black mages, red mages, blue mages. You have like certain types of magics are the same. Certain items. There's certain races that are shared across all games. But I mean, hell, Dragon Quest when it first came out had hobbits and dwarves in it. And I think some versions of the game, some iterations still have hobbits and dwarves in it. Does that mean that it shares DNA with Middle Earth? No. So, and you can't say, well, they're in the same universe. No, not really. Um, so yeah, Dragon Quest I give as number one because it's been consistently good throughout many years. Like there has even the lower quality Dragon Quest games are still pretty good. Um, which I cannot say the same thing with Final Fantasy because like basically the lower quality like when Hironobu Sakaguchi ran Final Fantasy, the lower quality Final Fantasies were still pretty good. Not great, except for maybe 8. 8 was just a turd in the bed.
I
but
was gonna say the only thing that was good out of it was the mini game.
yeah, but that's not a badge of honor, you know, for a game.
I was gonna say that's an award.
For 80 plus hour game, yeah, man, that mini game you could play in that 80 plus hour game is really awesome. No, That's like going to a restaurant that's known for that's like a burger place, and it's like, man, the burgers are shit, the fries are shit, but the free peanuts, the complimentary peanuts that you get, they're good. They're good. It's like, well, that's that's not the point. But anyway, yeah, Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
But anyway, Dragon Quest has been consistently good throughout all these years. Um, it's pretty much stuck with the same vision throughout the entire series, which I like. Consistent, like for me, like I don't need one game to be really great and then the subsequent games in the franchise to be shit. Like, I mean, that's the problem with Chrono Trigger is that like if you want to call it a series, that the first Chrono Trigger is great, and then you get Chrono Cross, which is distinctly not nearly as good. Like there's a major, it's like if the original Chrono Trigger is a 100% game or a 95, Chrono Cross is like a 65. There's a 30% drop in quality with that game. you know, and I mean with Dragon Quest, even like the you know the like it just got better over time. Like Dragon Quest 1 is kind of basic, but you have to let that kind of pass on some regards because it's the first game in the series. They haven't figured out the formula yet. But then you go to Dragon Quest 2, it's better than the first game. Dragon Quest 3, better than the second game. Dragon Quest 4 is different, but it's still pretty damn good. Dragon Quest 5, different, but still pretty damn good. It told a very good story. Dragon Quest 6, you know, is basically more like 4, except you don't have different protagonists. And then you go to Dragon Quest 7, which is just awesome. Dragon Quest 8, good. Dragon Quest 9, good. Like, there's just been consistency over the franchise, which I cannot say
All the
same
games,
thing.
right?
Well, except 10, because we never got 10. I've never played 10. It could be a good game. It's never been localized. I'll take
I was about to
people's
say,
word.
when did 10 get out, and how
It came
come
out
we
in Japan. It's never come out here. Matter of fact, they've re-released 10 on PC. They've re-released 10 on the 3DS, the Wii, the Wii U, the Switch. It's, you know, it's been re-released multiple times, and I'm pretty sure Square Enix has made a lot of money off of it, and yet it's never been localized. So, I don't know. Like, they just skipped localizing 10. Like, 10, I don't think will... 10 will probably never come over to America. So instead, we've got 11, which... I mean, to me, 11 is one of the weaker entrants in the series. Just because it's kind of like... It's fucking basic as hell. It's a very basic game. It does nothing new or interesting.
Sometimes basic's good, but sometimes you want more meat.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I like... I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I like basic, but Dragon Quest already is kind of a basic franchise. So when they do something different, like you can tell, like Dragon Quest 9 did something different where you could basically download other people's dungeons. You could share miracle dungeons with people. And they were like little miniature rogue-like dungeons randomly generated. And plus you could create your own character, which was cool. And you could go to a tavern and recruit characters. Well, they did that in Dragon Quest 3. And it's a good mechanic because it gives you that D&D formula. Because old school D&D, that's how you recruited characters. You go to a tavern and you'd recruit characters to join your party. That's how it was back in the day. And, you know, Dragon Quest was heavily inspired by D&D. So that's why you had that mechanic in Dragon Quest 3. But anyway, that's my top 5. Yeah, I did not put Final Fantasy on the list because it has not been good for years now. And it's like going to a restaurant where after a while, every time you eat there, you're over the toilet for like 2 hours because the food is bad. Like I can't say it's good anymore because it's just not good. Anymore. Now, could it be good again? Maybe. It would take a massive change in how that franchise is handled in order for that to happen. And Square Enix doesn't really change. Like the only reason they're putting games out on other consoles now is because basically they're being forced to because they need to make money. Like it's about money. It's not because they actually learned anything. So I guess we can move on to the next topic. So what's your guys' least favorite RPGs?
Favorite what?
What are your least favorite RPGs?
That's a hard one because of anything you can't go wrong with RPGs.
Probably Quest 64.
Yeah, but is Quest 64 really an RPG?
Yeah, it kind of is. It has a turn-based system.
Yeah, but I mean, football games have turn-based systems as well. Like NFL, Madden games have a turn-based system. So that's not an RPG. So what? I mean, you kind of do level up in the game, but you don't really make choices that matter. You have no choices that you make in that game that that matter. Even in the most binary sense, there's no choices you can make in Quest 64 that matter.
What was it? Hey, Earthbound to a degree, which is probably scandalous.
No, I can understand. I mean, because you're talking about the 16-bit era where the SNES was the king of RPGs, and you're coming from like Lufia 2, Chrono
Remember,
Trigger.
Chrono Trigger was number 1 on my list. Remember that?
Yeah, I'm saying you're coming from this generation where you have like Final Fantasy IV, Final Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger, Lufia 2, Breath of Fire 2. You're coming to all of these like games that are pushing the hardware and doing this amazing shit, and then you get Earthbound, which Earthbound is so weird that in order for you to get into it, you have to like immerse yourself into Earthbound because Earthbound's simplistic presentation belies the depths of the game, but you gotta work past that simplistic presentation, like, and some of the weird shit going on into it. Like your character, you and your group of friends, Ness with a baseball bat and Jeff with his weapons, with his invented weapons and bottle rockets, and Sue with her frying pan have to fight a big pile of barf. That is.
And that's probably one of the mid-level bosses.
That's like one of the early on first hard bosses you face in the game. Early on, you gotta face a pile of barf. There you go. Matter of fact, his name is Lord Barf. No, sorry, Lord Puke. I mean, that is just, it's hard to get past that, It's a good game. I like it, but it's
Yeah, and that's when I think about these as a whole for least favorite RPG.
Yeah, I mean the thing about Earthbound is an acquired taste. It's not for everybody, and that's okay. People have this assumption that everyone needs to like everything. That's not true.
I was going to say that Mother 2 left the odd taste in my mouth, and people say, "Where's Mother 3?" It's getting kind of soft.
Yeah, Earthbound is very much an acquired taste. It's not for everybody, and that's okay. It's kind of like, it's not like it's like RPGs are like your favorite alcohol. Not everyone likes the same alcohol as someone else. Like some people, they only drink beer. Other people, they drink hard liquor. Other people like cocktails, and not everyone's gonna like the same cocktails. I mean, I like an old fashioned or a Manhattan, but not everyone likes that. Some people like, whiskey on the rocks, or neat, no rocks, or a little bit of water, whatever. So it's different for everybody else. Let's see. Hello, the Truth says greetings. Area 73 says best RPG, Phantasy Star, Skies of Arcadia, Super Mario RPG. Well, which Phantasy Star, Area 73? Phantasy Star 1, 2, 3, 4? There's like 4 games in the series. And then there's like Phantasy Star Online, which is also kind of fun. And Super Mario RPG, I have to agree, is a good RPG, and Skies of Arcadia is great. That game was made by the people who made Phantasy Star, and you could tell it was made by people who loved RPGs. But yeah, so Pinky, do you have a least favorite JRPG where you're just like, man, fuck this game?
Yeah, I mentioned Quest 64.
Oh, that's right,
That's
that's
my
right.
pick.
All right. Any others? Any others where you're just like, nah, fuck this, no, can't deal with it? Or is it just Quest 64?
Yeah, just Quest 64.
All right. Area 73 says 4 was probably the best of the series. I agree. Like Fantasy Stars 1, 2, and 3 felt like they were good. Like Fantasy Star, an RPG that takes place in the future where you have like technology versus swords and sorcery is really cool. But I think 4 had the best presentation. I would put 4 as being the equivalent of it was basically the Final Fantasy VI for the Sega Genesis. Now I'm not going to put it in head to head as being better than Final Fantasy VI or even on the same level, but it was pretty damn good. It's definitely the best JRPG on the Sega Genesis, although that's not a huge list because there weren't that many JRPGs on the Sega Genesis. Any other games you want to add, Jewel Rider, aside from Earthbound?
I would, but if anything, I'd upset the I accept the softy in the back.
You can go. I mean, look, it's your list. It's your games.
Okay, but don't say I didn't warn you.
Okay.
Pokemon.
Well, I mean, you could add Pokemon. I mean, like I said, I'm a person who never considered Pokemon to be an RPG. So,
True,
if you want to include Pokemon as a,
but if anything, I'd say at least 6 for Pokemon as far as the series goes.
All right. I mean, it's
Hey,
fun.
if I'm gonna put the worst of the list, I might as well put the best of the worst up there to at least show those.
Okay. All right. Whatever makes you happy. I guess it's my turn, since those were the two ones. So I will not be putting Pokemon on the list because in my head I just don't think of Pokemon as being an RPG.
I consider it light, so
To me, not even light, because the thing is like when Pokemon first came out, like its presentation was like a JRPG, but once you got into the nitty gritty of it, because even the most binary of JRPGs have you making choices, whether it just depends upon like you doing a side quest or not doing a side quest that drastically change the presentation of the game. Case in point, I mean, the king of JRPGs, arguably, which is Chrono Trigger. There's major plot points that can or cannot happen made by the choices you make. Whereas there is no choice you can make in Pokemon that's really going to change the story very much. I mean, yeah, you can choose which starter you are, but you're still going to have to fight your way through gyms, fight Pokemon trainers, get badges, that type of thing. Like, nothing really changes. It's, and to me, that just doesn't really scream RPG to me. Even JRPGs have certain choices you can make that drastically change the story. Even if they're just minor changes. But it doesn't really have that. And I don't have Kingdom Hearts on my list because that's more of like an action game with RPG elements. Because everything these days is adding RPG elements. And if you consider all those to be role-playing games, then the category becomes too unwieldy to categorize and qualify and even discuss what an RPG is. So instead, I'm just going to go with JRPGs that I don't like. I don't like current Final Fantasy. I think that a lot of people who are over there at Square Enix don't know how to fucking make a Final Fantasy game anymore, or never did at this point, which is kind of sad, but hey, what are you going to do? What else? I think that, let's see. I think the current Atelier series kind of sucks because it's turned into a magical girl simulator, which is just meh to me. I kind of don't like current Fire Emblem, but not because it's bad. It's just
I was gonna
I was just
say,
burnt out on Fire Emblem.
to each their own taste, but if anything, I can understand.
Yeah, I was kind of just burnt out on Fire Emblem because they Fire Emblemed me out because like Fire Emblem Awakening came and that game was great, and then they did the second Fire Emblem game after that, and that was okay. Although the microtransactions and the fact that you had to buy 3 different versions of the game to get the full story was bullshit. Um, and then they did Fire Emblem Heroes, which is like a mobile game. And then they did Fire Emblem Gaiden, and I'm like, okay, this is, give it a break. and then they did Three
And
Houses.
I was gonna say, the rush of Fire Emblem from the Game Boy to the
Well, you're clearly missing out on
Switch is kind of a lot.
There's just a lot of Fire Emblem. Like, here's the thing. It's not that I have anything. It's not that Fire Emblem is bad. It's just too much Fire Emblem. It's like, look, man, it's too much. It's like I like brownies, but if you gave me a big baking pan filled with brownies and just made me eat all of them in one sitting, just kept on bringing baking pan after baking pan, I would get tired of brownies after a while. That's basically what happened with Fire Emblem. I'm like, look, I need a break. Take a break. Look, Intelligent Systems, go make an Advance Wars game. Do something a little bit different for a while. Then come back to Fire but yeah, I kind of need a break from Fire Emblem a little bit. Let's see what else. See, I did Square Enix with.
Are you also going to include Y2K in your?
Not really. The game is just kind of boring, but it's not bad. Like here's the thing. Most RPGs, like even old school RPGs, you had to put in a little bit of time before they got good. Very few RPGs are like Final Fantasy VI or Chrono Trigger, where right off the bat you're almost dragged into, man, this is a really good game. It's hard to be like most RPGs, even Earthbound. Like until you get Paula in your party, the game is kind of like, this is a slog, Because you're fighting by yourself. You don't have anyone else with you. Like the beginning of that game is tough. It's kind of tough to get past the first note and fight the giant ant. Like the beginning of that game is kind of tough to get into. It's a good game. I personally like it very much, but it's not paced very well in the beginning of the game. Same thing with the first Breath of Fire. The first Breath of Fire does not start out like until you get like another party member in the game. The game is really hard. Like, the difficulty curve in the beginning of the game is very high, and then as you get more party members and unlock new abilities and stuff like that, it gets easier. Yeah, but basically, yeah. I mean, for me, like it's just certain games. I didn't put Quest 64 on the list because I don't really like. I just can't consider it to be an RPG. Although the irony of Quest 64 is that the follow-up game from that same studio, Iden Chronicles: The First Mage, is actually an RPG and it's actually pretty good. So, it is what it is. But yes, I have Iden Chronicles: The First Mage. It's a pretty good game. It's pretty damn good. So, that being said, we already talked about your favorite RPGs. So what qualities in RPGs do you think, like, in order for you to get into an RPG, what qualities need to be there in order for you to, a JRPG, I should say, what qualities need to be there that make you get into it?
For me, at least a good setup and a decent battle system, because if you're playing for so long, you'll notice the goes behind a battle system, and if you seem to not be able to get into it, then or it doesn't mix up a lot when things are overall, as in it doesn't spice, it doesn't only change up every now and then. It kind of gets you right in the. I'll be grinding this for ages.
All right. Pinky,
What was the question again?
what qualities do you look for in a good JRPG?
Oh, let's
Just
see.
your own personal qualities.
Let's see. Let's see, a decent story to follow. So, simple turn-based mechanics. And and of course some gimmicks or skill tree meters that are pretty easy to follow and to have fun with. Also the ability to level up your team without even the ones that are on the bench, just so you don't have to waste just so it doesn't feel so grindy on trying to level up your party members one by one.
That's half the fun.
That's the fun.
That's
Where's
half the fun. Look.
Oh no, you're not getting off this one, Pinks. How come you want to get where?
Might I remind you that even RPGs like D&D has all party members gain experience points at the same time.
Yeah, but people who aren't in the party get diminished experience points. Although, if you have a good DM, they'll make it so that, like, when people who aren't in use and didn't die during a campaign are staying at the tavern, they have them go off on their own adventures so they can get experience. But I get what you're saying. Like, here's the thing. You don't want to put a huge amount of time into grinding up characters. Because, I mean, listen. That's the whole point about JRPGs is that they are more entry-level friendly. And they aren't quite as hardcore by and large as Western RPGs, and that's okay. I mean, it's your list, your personal thing. You choose whatever you want. I mean, me personally, look, I'm gonna use a little bit of innuendo here. Hey, I'm good at RPGs, and my girlfriend loves me because I like to grind. But that's just me, But not everyone likes to grind, and I can appreciate that. In RPGs, I can understand why people wouldn't like to grind because it's time consuming. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
hey, it's the work.
Sometimes when I have like a Saturday free or a Friday free or something, it's like, oh man, I got 6 hours. I'm gonna sit down and grind. And you just sit down. Like I maxed out. I was playing a Bug Fable, right? And I maxed out my character's level.
The video that you've been showing us.
Yeah, the max level is level 40. Maxed it out. Maxed out the entire level. So now I'm basically fighting enemies for no experience. It's ridiculous. I'm out of control. And I've basically put most of my leveling point leveling into metal points, so I can have lots of special abilities. So it is what it is. But I get what you're saying, man. I get what you're saying. Any other qualities that you like in JRPGs?
I think that's about it.
All right, I guess it's my turn. For me, the thing I like about JRPGs is they tend to be less choice complex as per from a Western RPG. Like, case in point, if you're playing, like, let's say, a Fallout game, or, let's say a Fallout game. Any of the Obsidian Fallout games, not the Bethesda Fallout games, but Obsidian Fallout games, aka like old school Fallout games. Like you have about 8, 9 different ways to solve a problem. Like let's say you have to do a quest, you have 8, 9 different ways to solve that quest. And that can be, for someone like me who likes to see all the different ways to solve a problem, that can be a little overwhelming for some people. Me, I love that, but I know a lot of people can't get into that. JRPGs are a lot more interesting. Like Chrono Trigger, as the classical JRPG example, like Chrono Trigger, like there's entire side quests you can miss if you don't take the choice to do it. Like there's a side quest where you can turn a desert into a forest by leaving Robo in the past and then coming back like 400 years later, where he's been working for like 200, 300 years to reforest this area. And it's like a really awesomely cool thing. He like breaks down and they fix him and everything. And it's like, wow, that's a cool side quest. But unless you actually leave him there, you wouldn't know about it. No one tells you about that side quest. I like those types of things in JRPGs where it's like, oh, you can do this and it does this. It's like, that's really cool. I wish more JRPGs did that nowadays, but more and more of them are becoming, in my opinion, overly casualized. But yeah, I like stuff like that. That's one of the qualities I like in JRPGs. I also like the art style. I think going hyper realistic is to the detriment of a lot of games, especially Western RPGs.
Very.
Because like if you play a Fallout game, everything gets drab and boring. Okay, here's a little bit of news for you, folks. You're getting 6 NES, SNES games being added to Nintendo Switch. You're getting Star Fox 2. Super Punch-Out, Kirby Superstar, Breath of Fire 2. For the NES, you're in Crystallis and Journey to Silius.
Breath of Fire to see about that.
Yeah, Breath of Fire 2. Now, personally, I'm not like the biggest... Like I said, Breath of Fire 2 is better than the first Breath of Fire. It's not terrible. It's just not... I mean, it's better than the first Breath of Fire, so I give kudos to it, for being what it is. The first Breath of Fire has the most satisfying power creep by the end of the game. Like you're insanely powerful, but the second Breath of Fire, you have to work at beating the final boss. But once you do, it's like the journey was worth it. Although the ending is a little bittersweet unless you do a certain side quest in order to get the best ending of the game. By doing certain things. Even back then, choices mattered. But yeah, that's just me. Let's see. I guess we can move on to. Speaking of JRPGs, so what JRPGs do you absolutely hate?
Ooh. The hard part is that would go into the Flash games of sorts. Like those kind of games you find that you probably would say, where's the metal worker for this?
All right.
Yeah, like that Mega Man Sprite game, or that supposed Space Jam sequel starring LeBron James or something. Or those FNAF RPG fan games called Five Nights at F Boys.
I don't even know what that is, man. Sorry, can't help you.
Some things you probably don't want to know.
Yeah, I don't want to know either. It's great. It's great. I don't want to know what what that's about. I don't like JRPGs that over casualize themselves for a younger audience. Mostly because this is the old man cranky coming out in me, where I'm like, when I was a kid, like there weren't easy RPGs. Like you either got to that level or you didn't play it. Like it wasn't good enough for you. Like
Yeah.
I'll give you an example, right? Like when I was a little kid, I saw Dragon Quest 1 and 2 for the Game Boy Color. And I got it. because I tried to play that game at a friend's house when I was a little kid, and I didn't understand it. But then I got a little older and I got it. And the first Dragon Quest is hard as balls. Okay, it's a hard game. You have one party member, you. There's no other party members. Although once you rescue the princess, you can go around staying at various hotels, and where it's heavily implied that you and the princess were getting acquainted with one another during the night. And fun fact, that game was programmed for the Game Boy Color. 1 and 2 was programmed by Satoru Iwata. Fun factoid gone. But that game is hard. That game.
Yeah, I could tell where you're getting that from that one.
You have to do like a lot of you only have in the beginning of the game there's like hard areas where you cannot go to. People in town say, well, head east first in order to go to this cave and where you can start to get some of your armaments and items and stuff and money.
Let me guess. There's a few places that are east.
Well, no. Going east, if you go too far, you'll run into enemies that are like level 4 or level 5. Well, in the beginning of the game, you're level 1, and it takes a lot of experience to get to level 2. So you're going to get your ass kicked. The thing is that if you head west early on in the game, you will run into enemies that are like level 13, 14, 15 who will murder your ass.
Wait.
And if you somehow make it past
sometimes
those guys,
you get to 2, and the monsters out the west are level 15.
If you somehow make it past the level 15 dudes and go south from there, you'll run into level 20 to 30 enemies that will just wreck your shit. So right off that, you're like, oh snap, I need to grind a little bit in order to get good at this game. And it really captured that D&D experience where the first levels are hard and you actually have to grind.
That's D&D version 2 evil.
Version 1, version 2, which is AD&D. You actually had to learn how to go places, follow directions, go over here, earn enough money so you can buy better equipment so you can actually fight tougher monsters. And it was really important to have better equipment, because here's the thing, grinding alone didn't help you in this game, because your max level in the game was 30 and your starting stats were determined by an algorithm by what your name was. By your character's beginning name. So right off the bat, it's a very, very, very hard game. But for some reason, playing that game, I was like, you know what? Once you get into it and once you learn how to do everything, it's really not that bad. Then you get Dragon Quest II, where you finally have a party. Your main character is the hero. Your 2 side characters, one's a paladin, the other's a cleric. So you know what this means. You've got party members, but now there's more monsters, because in the original Dragon Quest, it was always one-on-one fights, like you versus a Draki, you versus a slime, you versus a Eider. But Dragon Quest 3, you now had multiple enemies, and it got even more hardcore. But overall, Dragon Quest has always been it got me into it because I had to learn how to play these games. I had to learn how to grind. I had to learn how to equip the right stuff. Is it worth equipping this item that gives me a special ability, or do I equip something that just gives me higher stats? You had to learn that type of stuff.
Both were pretty good, but one gives you more benefits.
Yeah, you had to learn how to. I had to learn how to do those things if I wanted to get good at the game. But now, everyone, oh no, let's get rid of that depth and complexity. Fuck that. We'll just we'll dumb it down so that someone in a coma could play this. It's like, I think you're doing a disservice to the person. I think that does a disservice to gamers that they don't have to learn to get good enough to play more complex games. Because then if you want to introduce something more complex, they're not going to be into it because they never learned those skills. It's like if you never teach a child how to do algebra, how are they going to get into calculus and geometry if they can't do algebra? You just kept them just doing basic arithmetic. That's how it feels to me when they dumb down game genres for, especially Jrpgs for a more casual audience. But that's just me. That's a thing that I kind of I'm getting tired of. It kind of angers me a little bit.
So if anything, mainline RPG, Dragon Quest IV Quarter. I mean, Breath of Fire 4 or that's what I was trying to
Dragon
get.
Quarter. Yeah, Dragon Quarter. That game killed a franchise. It actually it was Breath of Fire 5, Dragon Quarter. That game killed a franchise because Breath of Fire 1 is good, Breath of Fire 2 is better, Breath of Fire 3 is really good. Like it's like take the best qualities of 1 and 2 and combine it, you get Breath of Fire 3. Then Breath of Fire 4 is kind of weird. Like I don't really like that game that much, but I know people who do, so I'm not gonna talk too much shit about it. Breath of Fire 5, that killed a franchise. It killed a
Yeah.
franchise. Think about that. It killed a
Yeah.
franchise.
You have to be pretty bad in order to be killing your own franchise.
Think about this. They made 3 Final Fantasy 13 games, and all of those are bad. And we got a Final Fantasy 14. They made 1 bad Dragon Quest, and it killed a franchise. Think about that. That is amazing.
Yeah.
But that's just me. So any other JRPG?
I was gonna say we didn't get yours.
No, I already talked about my least favorite thing. It was
I mean, the one that you hate. I mean, the JRPGs that you hate.
yeah, no. The one thing about JRPGs that I hate is the over casualization of the franchises in order to appeal to a more casual audience. Like I don't like that. I've never liked that. I've always been like I don't want to. I like.
So then you're a hipster then.
Not
Like a
really.
gatekeeper.
No, I
Nice try.
that's not a hipster. I just don't like people. I don't like people insulting my intelligence, because SquareSoft did that back in the day on the SNES. They were like, oh well, you people. They literally thought that American audiences were too stupid to play a complex RPG. So instead of getting Final Fantasy V, we got Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, which is an incredibly over casualized, dumbed down RPG experience. Now, within and of itself, it's not a bad game, but when someone thinks, because basically they were saying you're too stupid to know how to play an RPG. Here's the problem with that statement. D&D was created by Americans, and D&D had been a big thing in America since the 70s. So, like, it's not that we're too dumb to play a JRPG, because JRPGs aren't as complex as D&D. They aren't, which is a Western RPG. So, I mean, it's just they thought so little of their audience, you know. When the whole point of putting out a franchise is to slowly introduce more complex.
Introduce your people to the series as a whole, right?
Well, no, it's to slowly introduce more complex concepts until they're on board, you know. Like kind of like how Marvel did with Iron Man. Like the first Iron Man film, relatively grounded. Iron Man 2, a little bit more out there. By the time you get to Iron Man 3, it's way out there. And then over time, they added more stuff to make it more, you know, by the time you get to the Avengers, they're fighting aliens, you know? You know? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, they added more depth and complexity to it over time. So, yes, initially, it's kind of casual, but then over time, you add more depth and complexity until everyone's on board. Like, you can't go from being, okay, this has gotten really complex to, oh, you're too stupid to understand that, so we're going to take out stuff in order to, you know, make it easier. It's like, well, I mean, just because these dumbasses over here don't understand doesn't mean I don't get it. You know? Like, I don't like people insulting my intelligence or trying to make it, because it feels like they think little of their audience, and I don't like people belittling my intelligence, which is what it's the equivalent of what they're doing when they over casualize a franchise. Is that they're belittling the intelligence of the people who like that franchise. It's like, oh, you're too stupid to understand this, so we made it easier, and I don't like that. It's an affront to my to my gaming skills, because like I said, I've been playing RPGs, both JRPG and Western RPGs, for years, and you know, those complex gameplay systems, I just learned how to get into it. Just like anything else. Like if you're playing a platinum game, yeah, initially you're not going to understand all those combos, but eventually you're going to get into it. You learn to deal with the gameplay system. So, if you want to get enjoyment out of that game, you know, I don't think, I mean, that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be genres or particular franchises that are kind of entry level games for people. There are, there are RPGs that are more for like people who don't want to go into those depths and things. I mean, there's Yokai Watch. That's a starter RPG for people. There's Dragon Quest Monsters. That's a starter RPG for people. Telerobo, maybe Telerobo would be another one.
Maybe.
I don't know. Not a lot of people don't like Telerobo. I thought it was interesting. It was a nice take on Pokemon, but it actually had RPG mechanics. Like you could actually make decisions that dramatically changed the game, which I thought was cool. But anyway, that's just me. That's just me. So anyone else? Anything else you guys want to add before we move on to our final topic?
No, we can move on.
All right. Our final topic is you have an unlimited budget. What JRPG franchise would you create or resurrect? Remember, you have an unlimited budget. You can, if you want to go back in time and bring back the people who created the franchise, even if they're dead, you can bring them back. You got an unlimited budget. What JRPG franchise would you bring back?
Ooh.
Or create. So it can be
for me. I was gonna say, I'd say at least I'd go for a revive, and I'd go with making the series a lot better than it could be.
Which series?
Legend of Dragoon, or at least try to get the Grandia series up to speed. But that's a little if.
You could do it if you bought it from Square Enix. So like, I'll give you $100 million. Because remember, you have unlimited cash. You can do it.
Yeah, I was saying at least for I go with either Legend of Dragoon or the Grandia opponent into the new age of gaming.
All right.
To the point that it's super simplified.
All right. Okay. Pinky?
I'll probably have to resurrect, do a remake of Sweet House. Or was it Sweet Home?
Yeah. That'd be cool. That game was doing a lot of really interesting things early on that you just didn't see in games. For one thing, it was a JRPG, but it didn't have the atypical JRPG aesthetic. It was more like a, hey, you want to play Cthulhu, the video game? Cthulhu crossed with Haunted House, Haunted Mansion.
Yeah, and it's supposedly the game that inspired the Resident Evil series.
Yeah, I could see that. Because it was made by Capcom, if I remember correctly. Or was it Atlas? I can't remember. But never came to America. If you want to play that game, you have to get the Japanese version and apply a.
So I was thinking like doing an HD remake of the game.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
While retaining its RPG mechanics.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'd be down with that. So I guess it's my turn. If I had an unlimited budget, like all the money in the world, and no one could stop me, I would make a true Chrono Trigger sequel. But
not put it under Square Enix's flag.
No, I would basically make it. I would buy the IP from Square Enix because they ain't doing shit with it, and and then I would I would basically buy the IP. Then I would essentially I would go and get Hironobu Sakaguchi and his team and reunite them with Monolith Soft's team and have them make a true sequel, like an actual sequel to the original Chrono Trigger and not Chrono Cross, like a real sequel. I would get the band back together. I would do a documentary, Blues Brothers style. Yeah, we're getting the band back together, and we're on a mission from God. And I'd make a true Chrono Trigger sequel. And I'd be like, yeah, isn't it awesome? A real Chrono Trigger sequel. And then when it came out, and if it did remarkably well, I would do a Eat Shit and Die video to Square Enix. Like, you guys have been fucking up this franchise for years. Why? You bastards. But that's probably too far. But if I have unlimited money to make the game, then obviously, you got that much money, you got FU cash. Be like, you know what? F you, buddy. But that's what I would do. That would be my my thing. And some people say, why Chrono Trigger? Because Chrono Trigger is a game that you could totally do a sequel. You just would have to make it bigger. But you could easily do that just by expanding the universe a little bit, and it would still be awesome. And they didn't do that. They made Chrono Cross, which, not a very good game. In my opinion, I know some people it doesn't bother them, but
Enough said.
I guess because Chrono Trigger is such a hard act to follow. You know what I mean? You know? It's like if you're a comedian and Chris Rock is your opening act and he burns the house down. Like, people are rolling on the floor laughing. Like, how the hell are you going to follow that up? Really? Like, what are you going to do, you know? That's basically how it feels with Chrono Trigger versus Chrono Cross. It's like even though they had basically the same team making the game, it just, the magic was not there, you know? So, yeah. So that being said, I guess that's the end of the podcast. Anything you guys want to bring up before we give our sign-offs and wrap things up?
Wrap things up. Well, I do want to mention the PS4 music video controversy that's been going on just now.
First YouTube, now music videos?
I mean, you can bring it up, but go ahead, bring it up. Go ahead.
All right. So here is, what I'm gonna do is gonna post a link to the music video and show what the controversy is all about.
Huh. As if it wasn't controversy enough to ending the video game awards.
Here it is. Basically, the music video was ripping animations from various cartoons and anime.
Oh shit! They did steal a lot of stuff. Oh, that's not good.
I could hear a lot of trademark people wanting their coin.
That's.
And the original video is offline.
Yeah,
I wouldn't blame them for doing that.
When you start pulling stuff like offline, yeah, they did some stuff they had no business doing. Yeah. Oh well.
And here is the guy who was responsible for that music video. His name is Kevin Bao.
Well, his name is persona non grata now, because
make a dozen jokes of that.
Yeah, his name is Mud now.
Yep, and he's gone offline.
Yeah, yeah. There's some stuff going on. I don't know, man. I don't know. There's nothing I can really say at this point. I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. The thing is that my issue is that I really don't like at this point. Like I'm planning on getting a PS4 this holiday season, and the only reason I'm getting a PS4 is so that I can play Persona 5, like the updated version. So, but I mean, like, the thing is that even despite all of that, I really don't give a shit about, like, I'm not, like, ultra invested in, I'm not ultra invested in Sony, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not like, oh my god, this is the best company ever. I'm like, they're okay. You know? Like, Sony is okay. They're not great. They're not terrible. They're okay. You know what I mean?
They're not. They're not the best. They are far from the worst, right?
What, Sony? I mean, I put Sony on par with, I put Sony on par with Microsoft.
Ah, oof.
Like, they're both kind of like at least the way they are now, you know, because Sony used to be like Sony basically used to be like, oh man, they're they're scratching that itch that I'm not getting from Nintendo or on PC, right? But now it's like there's no difference between the games I'm getting on PC and what I could get on the PS4 or the Xbox One, you know, and even to an extent on the Switch. So it's like, I don't know where to go from that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I don't feel bad about it, but I'm just saying, it's, how much can you take, How much can you do? When does it end, So, that's just
That'll
me.
be a hard line.
That's just me. But with that being said, anyone else have anything else they want to bring up? Aside from apparently a guy at Sony made a video for the PS4 plagiarizing someone else's work. I'm just like, why would you plagiarize? Like, I mean, because here's the thing. Typically speaking, when someone plagiarizes, it's because they were it's because they were basically just trying to
Shortcut.
yeah, they were cut for time and trying to, like, they wanted to get something quickly, and rather than do the work themselves, they'd rather just
Yeah. And even I was gonna say, no matter what kind of job you're in, organization mishap can really ruin a career for a lot of jobs.
well, because it shows that you have no integrity. Like, it destroys when you plagiarize. It shows that you have zero integrity. It's a lack of integrity type thing, because it means that
Yeah.
you are willing to use someone else's work and call it your own, and that is it's theft. You're a thief. You're stealing someone else's work and passing it off as your own.
Yeah.
Like, if you plagiarize someone's paper, or you plagiarize someone's work or you plagiarize someone's stuff. Like that's real. That's real foul. You know. I'm not saying people don't do it. I'm just saying it's foul.
Yeah, and people that are usually caught doing that are labeled as such for doing it all.
Well, I mean, you are a thief. I mean, that's the thing people don't understand. When someone plagiarizes, you are a thief. You are just as much a thief as if you were stealing, someone's cash or whatever. You're a thief, right? You're the only difference between that and stealing something else is, it's not you didn't steal like someone's physically. You didn't steal physically from them, but you stole someone's ideas, which is arguably just as bad and in some cases worse because, like, once you steal someone's idea, unless they can prove that it was their idea first, and not everyone dates everything and stuff like that, to where they can prove someone stole their idea. So,
But then you got patent trolls.
Oh, that's true, but it's kind of a gray area. You never know where it's going, but it is what it is. Anything else anyone wants to bring up before we wrap things up? Give our sign offs and all that fun jazz.
No, I got nothing else.
All right. Jewel, anything you want to bring up before we wrap things up?
Not that I want, unless anybody is ready to talk about the VGAs. But
nope. Not touching
over
it.
time.
Not touching it. Not touching it. Not touching it with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'd say as an last ditch roll.
The reason I'm not touching it with a 10-foot pole is just because, like, it sounds like bullshit to me. I know some people are gonna get mad.
The topic was gonna be who do you think is gonna take the gold of beep and that show.
We all know who's gonna win everything. Come on, do we even have to ask? Come on, we know.
Oh, but if anything, we could at least let our audience know when it's.
Okay, fine then. I'm calling it right now. Game of the year is probably gonna be Death Stranding. Matter of fact, I guarantee Death Stranding is probably gonna win at least 3-4 awards, just by virtue of it being Death Stranding.
I was at least and saving it till at least Saturday.
I'm saying it right now. As a matter of fact, to quote the Louisiana chef, I guarantee it.
Red, if anything, I hope in heaven that Death Stranding will not get Game of the Year. At least one hope I have.
Well, hope's a beautiful thing. A lot of people say without hope there's nothing, but I'm a skeptic. My soul is black.
Yeah. I mean, I see. I'm leaning, but I hope that there's at least some brains behind those falsifies that judges that do the Game Awards, because if not, that's.
Like I said, you can believe whatever you want to, but I'm gonna say it's probably.
I'm just hoping that it doesn't happen. Though, if anything, that's a reach.
Yeah, I'm going with it's probably gonna be. It's probably gonna be, as we all know, it's probably gonna be. Death Stranding's probably going to run away with a lot of things because Jeff Keighley is good friends with Hideo Kojima.
Yeah. The only thing I was that Death Stranding doesn't get Game of the Year. That's at least the only thing I asked. That's how they season from those guys, if anything.
It probably
so if anything, I'm likely.
It probably will get Game of the Year. I mean, do I think it deserves Game of the Year? No, but I mean, come on. We're talking about people who we're talking about Jeff Keighley, all right, who has zero integrity. So
Yeah, yeah. Especially when hearing that they did a 90-10 vote with voting audience and stuff.
like,
Mess of
you know,
that.
none of these people have integrity. So I don't, I'm not like, oh well, I can't believe it. I'm like, yeah, I can believe anything.
Yeah.
I can believe a lot of stuff. I'm very open-minded when it comes to believing stuff. But that's just me. That's the end of the podcast. Remember, rate, comment, share, subscribe. Let me put up my there we go, right there. So to get in touch with the cast via Gmail, you can reach me at mrredfoxbsbusters@gmail.com or at Twitter at Matthew Wesley at mrredfox91. I will try to get back with
Oh,
you.
we got some breaking news. Kevin Bao has now been fired by the animation studio after the accused plagiarism of that PS4 music video.
Wow,
That is a new low.
that was quick.
Star Wars was
Wow, that was
there.
quick. I mean, I thought they'd at least let it simmer a month or so, but damn. Woo, boy, that was.
We could get on this Saturday because
there probably was a lot of evidence for him stealing that shit. You know, oh man, he must have been really under a crunch, and that's why he stole those people's work. Which is not a good thing because the technology they have for animators now is so robust. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's really no excuse for you saying, "Oh no, I couldn't get that order out." It's like, dude, look at all the stuff you get. I mean, come on. But anyway, yeah, that's the end of the podcast. Had some breaking news. We talked about a dude, and then he got fired the same day. I mean, that was quick. That was lickety split. Hell, I wish my bank would clear my electronic transactions that quickly. Normally, it's like it takes a day, but damn, I mean like a 24-hour day. But damn, these people did this shit same day. That's amazing. With that being said, that's the end of the podcast. You can reach me, like I said, via Twitter or Gmail. You can also reach me on through the comment section. Just leave a comment. If you would like to be on the podcast or you have podcast ideas, that'd be great. Rate, comment, share, subscribe. Peace. Good night. We're out. Repeat yourself, Jewel.
And hype responsibly.
All right. Good night.